Yes.
Okay, well, I have this fear of being buried alive in a box. I start thinking about being buried alive and I begin to panic.
Has anyone ever tried to bury you alive in a box?
No, but truly thinking about it does make my life horrible. I mean, I can't go through tunnels or be in an elevator or in a house, anything boxy.
So what you're saying is you're claustrophobic.
Yes, that's it.
All right, well, let's go, Catherine. I'm going to say 2 words to you right now. I want you to listen to them very, very carefully. Then I want you to take them out of the office with you and incorporate them into your life.
Well, shall I write them down?
Well, if it makes you comfortable, it's just 2 words. We find most people can remember them.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes.
Okay, here they are.
Stop it!
I'm sorry?
Stop it!
Stop it?
Yes, S-T-O-P, new word, I-T.
So, what are you saying?
You know, it's funny. I say 2 simple words, and I cannot tell you the amount of people who say the thing you're saying. I mean, this is not Yiddish, Catherine. This is English. Stop it.
So, I should just stop it.
There you go. I mean, you don't want to go through life being scared of being buried alive in a box, do you? I mean, that sounds frightening.
It is.
Then stop it.
I can't. I mean, it's been with me since...
Okay, hello everybody. That was a slightly comic example, but I'm sure we've all been in that sort of situation where you feel as though the person on the other end is really not listening to you, or maybe even gone as far as to call you and your opinions, or at least made you feel as though you're weird, stupid, slow, unintelligent. As Tom said, I am Shivani, and I'm here to talk to you today about effective communication. So now let's have a look at why I think I might know something about effective communication. So, a bit about me. I'm a psychologist, so hopefully by profession I know something about what makes people tick, human behaviour and communication. And secondly, I'm a lecturer. So I'm used to having about 250 faces staring at me, as they are now. And if I'm really lucky, about some percentage of that group will be on their mobile phone, texting, or on a really, really good day, they might even be asleep. So over the past few years, I've really tried to hone my presentation skills so that I can try and engage these students or these types of groups. So I'm well accustomed to dealing with difficult situations and communicating in those types of contexts. I've been given about 20 minutes to talk to you about this, so it's unlikely that I'm going to change your whole world and your whole communication style in just 20 minutes. But for those of you who are already used to talking in public and think you're relatively good at that, some of the things I'm going to say are just refreshers or perhaps things that will reassure you. And for those of you who are thinking about doing some public speaking, then hopefully I'll give you some starting points. But in any case, I hope that I'm going to help every single one of you turn this type of question, what are you going on about, into a statement. So that's what you're on about. So, when I talk about public speaking, I'm speaking very broadly about any type of communication involving people. So everything I say, you should either be able to generalise to a situation where you're communicating one-to-one, or maybe in small groups, or in a bigger domain like this, so in a formal presentation. And as an academic, one thing that I've got really used to is that when you try to present novel ideas, you might get one of these types of responses. So it went way over my head. An example of that when I was a PhD student, I often used to go to seminars that were held in our department. Everybody else seems to know exactly what this speaker is talking about, and I'd come out thinking, right, I've got about 50 different words, I need to go and look them up, and once I've done that, I'll probably understand what this person was talking about. So we all know that type of feeling. Or, why am I sitting listening to this? I could be home, I need to do my shopping. There are plenty of other things that are more interesting than what this person has to say. Or somebody actually would entertain your idea, but actually it's just not for them right now at that time. Or, my favourite, they just fundamentally disagree with you. Depending on which one of those responses you get, it's very important for you to realise that this is not an attack at you as an individual. So, the best tip I can give you is that you must develop a thick skin and understand that the reactions people throw at you are not because they're just mean or they think you're a bad person. It's because, as human beings, our past experiences shape very much how we are today. Now, I'm going to make some very generalisations about human nature. We know that we generally like to be surrounded by like-minded people. I invite you to look at the person next to you. Is it someone who fundamentally disagrees with the values or your beliefs, etc.? Would they be here with you if they actually thought that what you're going on about is absolutely crazy? So that should demonstrate that you like to be around people who are relatively similar to you. Another 2 points, we like to follow the crowd and we respond well to authority. Debatable, but I'm deliberately being challenging. If you came to Z-Day last year, you would have heard a student from I don't remember which university talking about some famous research done by Milgram in the 1960s, showing that actually people will succumb to authority and actually do some very relatively nasty things. So it's well established that people generally tend to follow crowds, they don't like to be different, and that in certain situations we will definitely succumb to authority. And we also like to think we know better. Come on, ladies, I'm sure you've always been or had the experience of being in a car with a man and you say, I think we must turn left here. And he says, no, no, I'm sure we go straight. Everybody's had that experience of someone who thinks they know better than you. But my ultimate favourite is the comfort zone. Or as I like to say, human beings are habit machines. About 40 to 60%, you can go and check this, do a diary study yourself, 40 to 60% of what you're going to do is going to be the same thing every day. Around the same kind of time, around the same people. 40% or to 60% of what you do every day is repeated in the same context at the same time. So we are habit machines. And that's a real problem because habit is the biggest barrier to change in thinking and change in behaviour. Or as I nicked this from Google Images, the greatest enemy to our human potential is the comfort zone. People don't generally like change. So given that we now know that about people and we are deliberately trying to be challenging, get people to think outside of their usual pattern of behaviour, thinking, etc., what is the most effective way to go in without getting yourself into a really sticky situation where you end up fighting, arguing, getting really stressed yourself? So, on a day-to-day, I would say, if you are trying to talk to people about new ideas, find a lead in. Don't attack people at a very personal level. Use encouraging language such as, I've noticed that you seem to be, for example, annoyed with the pension system. Or you seem to be. Use very encouraging language rather than, right, you're fed up, we need to do something about this. Secondly, pitch it at the right level. Now, I didn't know who I'm going to be in front of today. So I've pitched my talk so that if I brought my mum along, she'd be able to follow exactly what I was saying. But I'm well aware that if I was in front of a group of psychologists, every other point on my slide would need a reference because it's not good enough for me to just say it, it has to be backed up by evidence. So pitch it at the right level so that nobody is made to feel stupid, has to write down words, etc. Don't attack people's identities. You want to be challenging, but you don't want to fundamentally make people feel so uncomfortable. Body language is one that we all think we understand relatively well. Yeah, I know if I stand there with my arms folded, people are going to know that I'm really closed, but we all do it because it's not within your control. Sometimes if you're not thinking about something, things just happen. And don't just think when you approach someone to talk to them. From the minute you walk into a room, you're communicating non-verbally with your hands, your gestures, your body. So if I now leave and go into the breakout room and get all my buddies and we all stand there like this together, somebody's not really going to want to come and approach me. Whereas if I leave a natural gap for someone to walk into our circle, they may want to come and talk to me about my ideas. So be mindful of your body language, not only when you're presenting or talking to somebody, but also when you're generally in an environment where there are other people. And be ready for an open discussion, not a battle. If you're presenting new ideas, people will challenge you. And it comes back to that developing a thick skin. As an academic, I submit papers to journals all the time because I think I know what I'm going on about. Within about 30 days, I get a response from another academic telling me exactly why I think you're wrong. I have to read it, I feel a bit down about it, but then I'm sure that actually I think I know what I'm doing better, so I just get on with it. But if I then start writing letters saying, no, this is why you're wrong, it's frustrating for me, it's frustrating for the other person. So don't entertain a battle, but be open for discussion. And the next thing is if you're trying to change people's ideas, make sure you practice what you preach. If I go around telling my whole family, I think we should all be really, really environmentally friendly, we need to recycle, we need to this, and then I just chuck my Coke can in the bin, don't bother putting it in a recycling bin, people are going to think, hang on a minute, who are you to tell me? When you go to the gym to look for a personal trainer, do you go and find the fattest person you can, or do you go for someone who looks relatively slim? Because you think, yeah, you probably do look after your body, so maybe you can teach me something. So it's very important to practice what you preach. So what I'm going to do now is give you an example of some of these things going wrong. For the sake of protecting the identity of my friends, I'm going to call the individuals involved person 1, person 2, and person 3. If you look around the room hard enough, they'll be the ones going like this, so you can probably figure out who they are. So this is a conversation after, I beg your apology, I don't know what the movie was called, but the first Zeitgeist movie about money and stuff. So, person 1. So what did you think of that movie? Person 2, yeah, it was interesting. Person 3, yeah, this whole money system, it has to change. Good idea, but I doubt it will ever happen. People won't buy into it. Plus, how would I buy that Gucci handbag? Laugh. What? Did you get that movie? You're just a sucker for the media around you. Do you need it or do you want it? I want it, but so what? I work hard for my money, and I'm not hurting anyone. Yeah, you buy it while some kid elsewhere starves. There's an example of someone completely who is passionate about this message from this movie, who is now just attacking a fellow friend, saying, you're intelligent enough, you should get this stuff, so you should be able to practice it straight away. Why can't you just come on board? Sometimes it's really difficult, if you're very passionate about something, to not want to infect other people with that passion. But you have to understand that others are only where they are. It's very difficult, believe me, I've tried for years, to change people's thinking and their behaviour, unless they actually want to engage with that. That's why we know things like therapy for various psychological conditions. There's a big relapse, because if people don't want to engage with change, it won't happen. So you have to do your best to convey a small plant a small seed, so that somebody else will then go and reflect and think about it themselves. The worst thing you can do is force your ideas, particularly on a woman who wants a Gucci handbag. So that's a little bit about what you could do on a day-to-day situation. And now, for those of you who are going to be talking at to a larger audience, such as here, here's some tips on public speaking. So, as I've already said, know your audience. If you're speaking to politicians or somebody like that, they like it to be research informed. So kind of level of the content that you put in is going to be very different to whether if you're generating it for a generic audience. Think about how much time you have. The first thing I said to you all is I'm not going to change your communication style in 20 minutes. I'm being realistic. So what can I hope to do in the 20 minutes that I have? And is that reasonable? Is that a reasonable aim for this kind of time? And then my wonderful favourite, no death by PowerPoint. All you students out there, I'm sure you've had it, lecturers who ram everything possible onto their slides, and you're thinking, shall I be copying what's on the slide, or shall I be listening to them? That's the worst thing you can do. PowerPoint is not an enemy, but you can make it an enemy quite easily. So make sure you use your slides effectively. And think about how much you include. It's okay to use notes, but if you've got too much reliance on PowerPoint or too much reliance on notes, it's going to be very difficult for you to use eye contact and engage with the audience around you. People like to see a presenter being themselves. That's why I've later on said use your personality. I am not a funny person. My husband's normally laughing at me, not with me. So I don't really use humour, but I am a very gestury person. So I haven't put myself behind the podium where I have to, be restricted using the computer. I like to use my hands. So I don't want to restrict myself. I want my personality to come into my presentation. I think the presenter before me, he is clearly very funny. He got quite a few giggles out of you, and I thought, damn it, I always have a hard act to follow. So use your personality, whether it's sarcasm, comedy, whatever it is you do well, bring it into your presentation. Again, watch your body language. Other than if it's really cold, I'm not going to come here and stand and talk to you and say, yeah, well, I think you should all listen to me because I know best. That's very, very closed behaviour. Practice. If you're not skilled, I know now that I need about a minute per slide. But if you haven't done that before, it's a very good idea to practice in front of your friends maybe, get some feedback, but also, you probably hate this, but record yourself. The best feedback you can give is probably that you are your best critic. So if you watch yourself having practiced a presentation, you'll probably be able to pick up on the things that you would like to improve on yourself. Something I do with students, tell, and tell them again. At the beginning of my lecture, I say, right, this is exactly what I'm going to tell you today. Then I give them the content, and then I have to remind them exactly what I've just told them in that whole hour. It's quite an effective strategy. One, because repetition, we know from a memory model, repetition helps people remember things. But also, it helps you just reaffirm that you have met the objectives of your talk. And the best advice out of all my presentation that I can give you is you don't have to have all the answers. I've only ever been given one piece of advice, and that's what it was. I was about 21, my PhD supervisor said, right, you're going to give a lecture tomorrow, here's the material. And I was like, oh, I can't do that, I haven't done loads of reading. What if a student asks me a question and I don't know the answer, they're going to think I'm stupid. And he said, it's okay not to know the answers. You just have to have a generic response like, I'll think about that. Or, yeah, interesting, should we talk about it later? Maybe you could email me, here's my card. It's okay, you're not an encyclopedia. And in fact, who is an expert in anything? Knowledge is an ongoing process, so nobody has all the answers, and don't be afraid that you don't. And the final thought I'd like to leave you with is if everybody in the world was exactly the same, and we didn't celebrate difference, the world would be a very, very boring place. Unfortunately, if you stand out from the crowd, you are up for some flack, but just be confident that you are on the right track. Hold your head high, smile, and continue the way you're going. Thank you very much.